Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state. Welcome back, guys, to Innovation Unplugged, a production of the ACCS Innovation Center. I'm Houston Blackwood, Workforce Director. Today I've got two very special guests. One you know, Brandy Merrill, our Director of Curriculum Design, and Mr. Brian O'Leary, who is the Engineering Equipment Instructor for Wallace State Community College, Hanceville. This is one of my favorite courses that we've delivered. It was skid steer was our first heavy equipment piece, but since then we've added several other pieces. So it's always fun to watch the instructors go, especially the good ones. And I got a feeling that there's a story with you based on the off-air conversation. So give us a little bit of background about where you came from and how you got to be connected to Wallace.
So my mom has taught at Wallace since I was 18.
Wow.
She's one of the physics science teachers. I got there. I was with the Alabama Army National Guard for 21 years. I retired last year through a medical discharge. And I was kind of sitting at home working on the farm with nothing to do. And my brother-in-law now, Neely Adams and Shane Cochran, I used to work with them. So we worked for the National Guard full-time as maintainers. So the National Guard has all this equipment, and through the year, we actually go in and we service it and we make repairs on it and stuff like that. At Wallace, we have 5 heavy equipment instructors, and out of those 5 instructors, we've all worked together in some facet for the last 20 years for the Alabama Army National Guard.
That's incredible.
2 of us are retired, and we teach through the week. We'll teach Tuesday through Friday, usually, and it's not every week. We may work a week, off 2 weeks, work 2 weeks, off a week, something like that. It's just whenever the courses fill up. And then the other 3 instructors, they're still working for the National Guard full time, and they teach on weekends when they have availability and stuff like that. So, they actually taught this for the Army.
Yeah.
The other instructors, they taught how to operate skid steers, loaders, dump trucks, dozers, stuff like that. I was a maintainer. I was the mechanic for every unit I ever been in. And then in 2017, I went to engineer maintenance officer school for the Army. So I wound up running a maintenance operation for an engineer battalion in the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Well, we appreciate that over 2 decades of service. And it's so we don't get political, we don't get too spiritual on the show, but there's a reason that we keep finding the people like you. Every time we have this new need, like, oh my gosh, how are we going to find somebody to help us with that?
You have no idea what we're about to say, but we're both blown away at what you just said.
Let him know. But we just had a conversation last week with a paving company about developing paving equipment series for shuttle buggy, the paver, and the screed, and the roller, and a backhoe. But parallel to that is a heavy equipment mechanic helper course. So
I had no idea about that.
Not just the engine, because we have diesel mechanic schools around the state, around the country, but what we don't have is a heavy equipment mechanic that deals with everything outside of that engine. And so they're like, every company we know needs it because there's not one.
Well, and a lot of that's because there's nothing designed engineer specific. I mean, when you look at it, and we had this question, as a matter of fact, last week in the class, we had a student from one of the new rehab centers we picked up in Falkville. He was like, how do I become an engineer equipment mechanic? And I'm like, become a diesel mechanic. Because that's what I did.
Yeah.
I started as a heavy wheel mechanic for the Army, and then it phased away. I was just a general wheel mechanic.
Yeah.
And then I moved into a shop where we worked on engineer equipment.
Yeah.
Now, engineer equipment is just that. It's heavy equipment. You brake systems, air systems, hydraulic systems, electrical systems. If you can learn those, then you have a general understanding of anything that needs to be worked on. And everybody gets wrapped around, well, that's a bulldozer. I mean, how do I know how to work on that? Well, can you work on your Kia?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can change brakes on your Kia, you could probably figure out how to change the track on a dozer. It's just going to take a little time. And they get wrapped around it because it's a bigger piece of equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Everything on a bulldozer is bigger, heavier, a little meaner.
That's a good word.
It's a little scarier.
Yeah.
But it's actually, most of the stuff's a lot easier to work on. It's just bigger and heavier, and you need different tools to work on it.
Well, that's exactly what we want to capture in the course. I wish the camera is relevant, but in a different setting. But that's what we need, a subject matter expert. And Brandy, we can go for days about this conversation, but rest assured, this is a divine intervention that you're part of this and that we're here now. So you'll hear more about that later. What about, so you work with these high school kids, adult people, and from Royal Pines and Living Free.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that you have a favorite among those, but what has been your best experience so far? The one that you're like, you know what, I'm gonna make sure I try to replicate that.
So we have taught people with handicaps. We've taught multiple people how to drive this equipment that are missing legs, missing limbs. We've taught people who have never driven a car before.
Wow.
We've taught people that are just scared to death of this equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, terrified. My favorite thing about it is every class is the same. It doesn't matter where they come from. It doesn't matter what their background is. When we do this, every class is the same. Everybody walks into it and they are terrified because they've never done this before. My favorite part about the whole thing, the whole experience, is Sunday afternoon. Or I say Sunday afternoon because, like I said, we started this thing as a weekend gig, so Sunday was always our last thing. But it's the last day of class, about after lunch. We just the instructors just kind of kick back and we watch and we let them move the equipment around. We may, like at Wallace, we've got 40 acres of undeveloped land. So we may be working on a project, but we stop telling them what needs to be done and where we want their blade and where we want them to move. And we just say, hey, let's move this here, or let's smooth this out. Let's fill in the holes and dress up the side. Let's do some finish work. And when you just sit back and you watch these students get out there and they take, and some of them will get so frustrated and they'll just stop. The equipment will stop, everything will stop moving, and then they'll just start easing forward. And they start figuring it out for themselves. That's probably the best part about the whole gig is taking that fear they had on day one and, seeing them on day two, and they've got an idea of what they want to do, and they go to doing it themselves without being told what to do.
How symbolic of life is that?
It's crazy.
I mean, like, seriously, like I was sitting here
crazy.
thinking, golly, you could make so many ties to that. Like, all of it, that whole story of, if you just ever decide to just do it, just give it a try and, get over that fear, look what happens and figure it out,
That is probably the hardest thing about the heavy equipment is everybody shows up to class, and if they've never been around heavy equipment, like me, I don't ever remember a time not knowing how to drive this stuff.
Yeah.
And me and my uncle, we joke about this all the time because he's like 63 years old. So he never remember not knowing what he knows how to do.
Right.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember a time not knowing how to drive a tractor. He doesn't remember a time not knowing how to wire a house. I don't remember a time not knowing how to work on equipment or how to do plumbing or how to do the stuff I know how to do. But to see those people that they are in that time,
Yeah.
where they have absolutely no idea which way's up, and then you break it down to them and they start flowing with it. It's great.
How rewarding.
Especially, so the high school kids certainly don't understand where they're headed a lot of times, and adults in general don't. But when you're talking about Royal Pines, Living Free, when these guys are in the middle of, they've made some major ruts in their life sometimes. And now to have someone standing there, giving them an opportunity to figure that out on their own, in like the big picture, like not just this course, but this is certainly a part of it where they get that chance to figure out how to clean that rut up.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you, those guys probably they get me, and the other instructors too, because those guys probably pay better attention than anybody you'll ever teach. If they are the ones that realize that you're taking time out of your day where you could be doing whatever you want to do to come out there and help them better where they've been or better their situation. That's real rewarding.
Did you know that you were getting into that when they asked you to teach these courses?
I didn't have a clue. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't know what I was getting into. My brother-in-law Neely, he, like I said, he's the one that really kicked off the course with Wallace in Hanceville. He was, I guess, the first person they brought in, and he kind of said, "Well, this is how we do it in the Army. This is how we're gonna do it here." Him and Suzanne, they met and had meetings and stuff. Him and Shane, they kicked it off, and then a couple months later, Suzanne was like, "We need another instructor."
Yeah.
And they both kind of looked at each other and said, "Well, what about Brian?" Well, I didn't have nothing to do.
Yeah.
Retired at 40.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
What did we do wrong?
Trust me, I'd rather not have. It was a very painful path, but yeah.
And Neely and Shane, they were the first two I saw at Wallace, and I knew they were National Guard operators. And so when I went, it was like they were following our lab plan, but with a precision that I'd never even dreamed of. Like, and when they were hand signals and communications without speaking, and it was like, maybe they should be in charge because I don't know, I cannot replicate this. And we have really good instructors around the state, but man, that's just a whole different level of instruction. And not only that, like I'm sure you follow, maybe you do, some of those guys like military leadership authors and podcast, whatever, and they always talk about ownership and discipline, all that stuff. But watching those guys give that opportunity to those kids in such a way that it's gentle, but it's direct, and they're like, boom, they just go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was fortunate. Those guys are like my big brothers. I was literally the youngest guy in the group for the better part of 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, when I hired in working with them in 2008, 2009, there was nobody hired in after me for 10 years. I was the little brother.
Oh, wow.
So
that's fun.
So I learned a lot of things from them. Some things were fun. Some things were life lessons learned. But we have that relationship to where we can function in a room. We can function across 50 acres of ground, and we know what we're doing without using words. I mean, and that's, it's really great for them. It's really great for us. I enjoy it because I miss that being retired.
Sure.
You know, that was my everyday gig. And then I fell into this and I was like, we'll ride it for a little bit and see what it's like. And it's just been amazing.
Are you full, like, I know you're not full time, but do you work all the time with Wallace for this?
No. So I pretty much only work on the days I have classes.
Okay.
I might come in and meet somebody for something, or go do a little show and tell at the Career Center or something like that. But no, if I'm not teaching a class, usually I'm on my farm or at the house or with my family or something like that.
Well, Ashley Baker would probably kill me when I say this out loud, but there are other colleges in the state too that occasionally need instructors.
No, there are. I had the opportunity to meet, I guess, the North Alabama coordinator. So I work with like Anna and Ashley and April, Ashley's not my coordinator, but April and Anna are.
Yeah.
I work with them, and then I had the opportunity 2 classes ago to meet their coordinator.
Yeah.
For like the coordinator for all the community colleges and stuff. And she was passing out cards like, hey, you know, there's classes up here that need to be taught too and stuff. And
was it Destiny or Fadena?
I think it was Fadena.
Yeah. She just came on May 1st.
Yeah.
I think it was. Because we expanded from 10 to 20, our team, because we just couldn't keep up with y'all. Y'all were like having these classes.
Out of the water.
You know, when we start with the first heavy equipment was in September of 22, and we had one, and then we had another one in October of that year, and we were getting the machines for free from Thompson down in Montgomery, and then we had 2 a month, and then it went kinetic, and so then we opened up to K-12 the next spring. Good night. It's been chaos, so that's why we had to expand. So
good chaos, controlled chaos.
It's been beautiful,
but explosive chaos.
Yeah, and some of these same stories around the state, and finding guys like you to to run these things for these kids, you know, and pouring into them so they get good instruction and they know where they're going. You know?
I mean, we try to take it and work it like any construction site.
Mm-hmm.
So we've actually gotten to where a lot of the times we won't just run skid steers this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably have one skid steer, one dozer, one excavator. And we're going to find tasks for that dozer to work with that excavator and that skid steer to work with that excavator. So it looks like an actual construction site's going on.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
We've took a took a excavator and broke down a hill and had the dozer pushing and feeding it out and the skid steer finishing off behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just
beautiful
to see how that works and to give them that little understanding of, if you go to a construction site, they're going to want you to crawl, walk, and run all at the same time. It just works great.
I love that.
They get into it. I mean,
I would love to see. So when we wrote our skid steer, when we wrote all the lab plans, they were pretty straightforward. Like here's the parts, here's the pre-service, here's the safety, and here's the operation. What we didn't get to at the time is that advanced exercise at the end. You know, and a lot of the colleges have just figured out that's what we need to do at the end, and we left it open for that reason, not really knowing where to go with it at that time. What I would love to see is something like that for each machine. Like, what's that big activity at the end that they really need to be able to do or work alongside or whatever?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. When we started doing that, when I got brought into this, there was no real. I mean, we had the packet that said what we needed to check off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there was no task listing.
Right. That's what I'm talking about.
What does that? What do they need to know?
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of come up with a thing we do. So like with the excavator, we start off with, you do your 360. I'm going to do a 360 walk around, and I'm going to explain to you what I'm looking at and why I'm looking at it, and then you're going to do it back to me.
Mm-hmm.
That gets you half your check offs on your check ride.
Mm-hmm.
Now for the rest of the weekend, you're going to do this every time you get on and off the piece of equipment, and I'm going to pay attention. And I'm not going to correct you. I'm not going to ask you. I'm just going to watch and see how you do this. But then we get them we go straight from that into, with an excavator, the biggest thing you need to know is a flat bottom ditch.
Mm-hmm.
So every student we have digs a flat bottom ditch. Now, after we get done with the flat bottom ditch, we may go to moving a debris pile with just the bucket. Or if we get lucky enough to have one with a thumb, we get to use the thumb attachment too. But then we may break down a stockpile of dirt. Then we may grub some ground. We may dig some trees out. We may dig some stumps out. But we have those general things that everybody needs to know how to do with an excavator is dig a flat bottom ditch. Because if you can dig a flat bottom ditch, you can install utilities for any company.
Yep.
Then with a skid steer, mostly what you're going to want to know how to do with the skid steer is flat bottom ditching. We do usually try to dig a hole, a pretty hole, and build a stockpile on the other side of it, and understand why we dig in the way we dig in, dig out the way we dig out, and how we come off the backside. Then how we fill it back in properly.
Yeah.
But then we go into blading and finishing ground or moving material, because with a skid steer, it's really hard to understand how you go into a pile of material and move it properly without tearing your equipment up or without making a mess across a customer's yard or something like that. With the bulldozer, we work on smoothing the ground out, get them used to the small controlled movements you have to do to move that blade and make it effective. And then we go into digging dirt and pushing dirt and then filling holes back in. And I mean, there are several course tasks that we just do because it makes sense to us.
Yeah. And that's what we'd hoped that it would be, that the instructor would say, okay, well, they can do this and here's the activity. Because we're not pushy. We're not real pushy. But we didn't want to be like, okay, Mr. Instructor who knows this 30 years worth, you got to do it this way. Like, we hope that y'all would take it and run with it like that. And there's 23 different ways to do it. Yeah,
and 23 different colleges, but 130 locations.
Yeah.
And so kind of knowing and being able to project or predict where that would actually happen, you know. And so it's happened all over the place.
And a big part of it that has come in that we noticed is weather.
Yeah.
because we scheduled this class.
Yeah.
If it's not lightning, we're having the class.
Beautiful.
So
Thank you.
in order to, I think we've canceled one class since September, and it was 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And it's because it was lightning like crazy at 6 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and the weather report said it was going to do it all day.
Yeah.
And we canceled the class, and the sun came out.
How did you get a hold of students at 6 o'clock in the morning?
I showed up at 8:30. I mean, we sent them emails,
Yeah.
but I showed up to the class anyway at 8:30 and was like, "Hey guys, sorry."
Yeah.
I mean, I caught a little grief over it, but I mean, it's for their safety.
Sure.
We have no
absolutely.
lightning protection where we're at.
No,
So we made it up to them, and we taught the class the next weekend.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes you can't predict the weather, and that's something you got to learn if you're going to do heavy equipment operations.
Right.
So, but you know, if you schedule a class and you show up and it's raining, how's that dirt going to act now? Well, now I can't dig a hole, because if I dig a hole, I'm never going to get it filled back in.
I'm making a pond.
So now we're going to go. Now we're going to
Maybe
go
that
off.
is the job.
Now we're going to go off to the edge of the woods, and we're going to grub ground, and figure out how to cut underbrush out without making a big mess.
Yeah.
What else can we do with this thing? Because what a lot of people don't understand is, this equipment is designed to do task A. But like with an excavator, I've got 16 moving functions.
Mm-hmm.
I can do anything I want to do as long as I can think about what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
So let's figure out different ways of using this piece of equipment.
All right, Brian, final thoughts. And this does not have to be the last time you're on this show, or certainly I don't think it's going to be the last time we see each other
Absolutely.
in terms of what's next for us. So your final thoughts about what we're doing and your role in it and how it's impacting the students.
That's a good question. I like the way you worded that. It threw me right off. So, I mean, I'm just trying to facilitate learning at its basic level. I mean, I want somebody to walk in that is completely scared of this piece of equipment and realize that it's not the Incredible Hulk. I mean, it's a small hill for a mountain climber. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we have the ability to affect people like that, it makes everything worth it. I don't know if I answered your question or made it worse.
Perfectly, because you said basically I'm going to take this Hulk and I'm going to turn it into a small hill for a mountain climber.
Yeah.
Because when they leave you, hopefully they're going to get employed somewhere, and they take that confidence and that competence with them. And now, how good are they? And in some cases, how less likely are they to go back to digging ruts in their life?
Mm-hmm.
You know, now they're digging the right things. That's what we're after. It's a perfect answer. Thanks for joining on Innovation Unplugged. Remember to like, subscribe, and share on all the podcast platforms.